Okay, now that we have a player that can move, let's start talking about the camera controls. See, the player moving along is not good because we could walk outside the screen. So we need a camera that follows the player, like so. And we also want the camera not to be able to go outside the gaming area. So we want the camera to be bound by the limits of the environment. See, when I reach the end of the environment, the camera stops, but the player is still allowed to be moving around, like so, like so. So the camera knows the camera is bounded by the limits of the level, and as soon as the player leaves the limits, I want the camera to switch to another bound. So now I'm in the other level called garden. The camera is still following the player, and now the camera is bounded by the limits of this environment. And this is going to be true for all 5 environments we created. So the village, the garden, the beach, the farm, and the castle. As soon as the player goes from one level to the next, the camera swaps from that room, let's call it, or that level, into a next level. Let's go to another one. There you go, I'm in the castle now. And the camera is always following the player, but never leaves the boundaries of that level. Let's go to the farm. And there you go. And finally, let's go all the way to the beach. And there you go. So, and notice that it doesn't matter where I go, if I can even reach the corner here of the level. The camera never goes outside, never shows the background of the level. I'm stuck inside the level of the game. So whenever I swap one level to the next, I actually swap the camera as well. Let's see how we do that. So for us to have control over cameras in Unity, we need another package. So the Unity comes with this package called Cinemachine, and you see here in the website, features for it like Cinemachine, and that's a very powerful package that we need to install ourselves manually for us to have access to all the resources available for 2D and for 3D cameras. We have here Cinemachine for 2D, and we have several others for 3D as well. Okay, so for us to install this in Unity, first we need to come here to the package manager. If by any chance this context is not visible in your case, you just come to Window and then package manager right there. So when you are in package manager, we search here in Unity registry, select Unity registry, and come here to the search box and just start typing Cine, and you are going to find Cinemachine. Be careful, we have Cinematic Studio, that's not what we want, and the other one is called Cinemachine. So Cinemachine current version by the time of this recording is 3.1.3, and you are going to get a button asking you to download and install. In my case, I already went ahead and did this job for myself, so you guys don't have to wait to see me installing packages. So in your case, install the package. You also, if you want to learn more about Cinemachine, you strongly advise that you download samples as well. You have 2D samples here, and later we have 3D samples and even input samples. So if you want to learn more about Cinemachine, download these. I'm not. I'm going to download only the package itself, and then I'm going to start using in Unity. Okay, now that we have Cinemachine installed, the way that you're going to use this in our application is very simple. We have already a main camera, like so, that is basically filming everything I have in my game. Let me put my game here at the bottom for the time being. So if I move my camera, you see that whatever I'm inside this rectangle is going to be part of the game. So what we want to do is to make the camera attached to the actual position of the player. So this way, if I move the player, the camera will move along with the player. A rookie mistake students make is to make a camera a child of the player, like so. So this way, if I move the player component, I move the camera along with the player, which seems to be correct, because I'm moving the player and then the camera is following the player technically. But the problem using this approach is that the camera is not very smart. So if I move the camera to the corner like so, the camera is already leaking to the other levels or even outside the entire environment like we see here. We don't want that. We want a camera that is smart enough to detect the boundaries of the environment and stop seeking the player if they reach that environment, that limits. Okay, so forget about this. Let's bring the camera back to its default position. And now what we need to do is to create what Cinemachine calls a camera brain. A camera brain is basically an algorithm that is going to decide how to move the camera. It's our virtual cameraman, so to speak. Okay, so for us to do that, we need to come here to the plus sign, and notice now we got a new menu called Cinemachine, and then you have a whole bunch of different types of cameras. None of these is what we want. In target cameras, we have 2D camera. That's what we want, a 2D camera. So if I click this guy, Unity is going to create a new camera. So let's give it a proper name. Let's call it camera 2D, for instance. And also, I hope you notice that our main camera now got an extra icon over here that we didn't have before. So if I select this guy, Cinemachine attached itself to the camera with Cinemachine brain script. So we don't need to worry about what this does. It's basically the Cinemachine solution to actually track the camera position, to move the camera around freely in the game. What we need to do is here in the camera 2D, this is the script that we are going to be working with to decide how we want our camera to behave in the game. So whatever this script decides, this script is going to be in constant exchanging messages with the Cinemachine brain and then update the camera automatically for us. Okay, so let's go to the camera 2D. We have two scripts. I don't need to see the transform. We have the two scripts. The first one is the Cinemachine camera. We have a whole bunch of, let me bring this back here, up here, so you guys can have a better look. But we have a whole bunch of parameters in this element. One of the parameters here, we have a yellow warning. So the warning is saying that, let's see, the component is disabled or has a problem, and the problem we have is because this camera is supposed to be tracking someone in the game environment. And right now, the tracking target, as you can see here, is empty. So if I don't have a target, the camera is useless. I need to have a target for the camera. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my player component, drag and drop onto this target right there, and boom. As soon as I do that, notice the camera already adjusted itself to centralize the player in the center of the screen. So the camera is already tracking the player. So I can actually play the game now. And because my player is moving around, the camera is already following the player. But we still have a problem. I hope you guys can appreciate. The camera does not know the limits of the boundary. We are actually moving around and the camera is leaking onto the other levels and even on the background of the environment. We need to fix that problem as well. We are going to talk about that in a moment. Before we talk about that, here we have the other component, the component that updates the position of the camera. So we have here a certain parameters. Feel free to work around with these parameters if you want to. Basically what we do here in the camera position composer is to make how precise we want our camera to follow the player, how closely we want the camera to follow the player. We can have like a dead zone. So a dead zone is we give the player certain room in the game level where the player can move around without the camera following. Only if the player goes outside the dead zone, then the camera will follow the player. So feel free to play around. We can have some damping, so we can have the camera looking ahead, so the camera can be a little bit ahead of the player. So it's good. It's very interesting for like a platformer games. So we want to see what's coming in front of the player. So we don't want to keep the player at the center of the screen. We make the player slightly behind of the camera. So there are a lot of parameters. We can have cameras that rotate along with the player as well if we want. Not suitable for this kind of game. But again, there are a lot of things that we can play around to make this game more interesting. For now, all we need to do is to set the target. This is mandatory, by the way. Set the tracking target and the camera will start following the player. And let's see how we are working with boundaries next. Okay, so to work with boundaries is also not complicated at all. All we need to do is to add an extension to our camera. If you come here, you see that we have this button, add extensions, and Cinemachine comes with a whole bunch of those extensions, each one for a specific purpose. If you want to know more about these, you can check the documentation of Cinemachine. I already provide you with the link. So for now, what we are looking for is this one, Cinemachine Confiner 2D. So click this guy. As soon as you do that, we get another script, Cinemachine Confiner 2D. And as the name suggests, what this does is that we can create a boundary in our game and the camera will be bounded inside that region. And what a boundary is basically one trigger. We already worked with triggers before, Collider set as a trigger. So if I create a region in my game, set as a trigger, and I provide that over here, I'll get my camera confined inside that region. And that's what I did here. I created a camera bound called Village Bounds. Let me zoom in so you guys can see. I hope you guys can appreciate. We have here a Box Collider 2D set as a trigger. Let me open. I will move around so you guys can appreciate where I put the trigger. So I have one Collider 2D set as a trigger around the entire village level of my game. Okay, so by doing that, I can start using that in my camera. So if I select the camera again, where's my camera? Camera 2D. If I bring Village Bounds here to the boundary, that's it. Yeah, pretty much. And now if I play the game, see what happens? The camera is not moving upwards anymore because the camera reached the limits of the boundary. If I going down, the camera starts following again. Same thing goes if I go sideways. The camera does not follow the player in each direction. That's very simple. Okay, so this is good for a simple level, but the problem with our game is that our level is not simple. Our level contains 5 different environments. So if I have 5 different environments, what I'm going to do, I'm going to replicate this idea 5 times. So that's what I did. I create a farm bound, has its own box collider around the farm. I have the castle bounds, I have the garden bound here on top, and I have the beach bound here at the bottom. All those limits restrain the space where the camera can move around. But the thing is, we only have one camera, and that one camera contains only one bound shape 2D. So how can I use 5 different bounds? And I will not even want to use 5 different bounds. I want to use one of the 5 every time. Depending where the player is in my game, I want to use that specific bounding area to confine the camera. So if you are thinking we are gonna need to write a C# script for that, you are absolutely right. And that's what we are going to be doing next. We are going to be creating, let me show you, let me zoom in pretty close to any of the limits. We have here the yellow line that shows the boundary, and if I select this guy, see, we have a trigger right here that is basically the portal and entrance to the level above. And let me select one trigger here. If I select the garden, I have another trigger over there that's going to be the limit for that level. So the idea is, if I'm inside this trigger here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to push my player up, so the player is inside the other level, whilst I also swap the confiner for the camera to match the second level here, in this case the garden level. So every new entrance, we are going to have a trigger. I'm starting to call them portals. So if I am inside the portal, I push the player forward in whatever direction we want, could be up, left, downward, right? And then I swap the boundaries to that specific new container we want over there. Okay, let's see how we are doing this in the code.